All right, does goal setting work? I mean, really, we hear it all the time. We try it all the time. Then there's what they call Failure Friday a couple weeks after the beginning of the year. What is the science of maximum success? What are successful people doing? Sometimes you do goals, they don't work. Sometimes they do work. Everybody's talking about them. Every CEO, every motivational speaker. We just have to do it the right way. If we want to change the name to your target, your objective, we can. How can you hit your target this year?
Maximize your influence. Kurt Mortensen is the author of Persuasion IQ, Laws of Charisma, and the best-selling book, Maximum Influence.
Welcome back, Podcast 544. Kurt Mortensen here, Maximum Influence, where we take that deep dive into persuasion, motivation, influence. But today we're talking about self-persuasion, self-mastery, getting yourself to do what you need to do, like doing it, and keep doing it. How do you stay motivated to achieve your goals? We've seen it so many times. Those health clubs, those gyms in January, they're packed. It's not even worth going. Just wait a month and it's back to normal. What's going on? These people want to be healthy. They want to achieve their goals and they fizzle out. Let's talk about guaranteed goals. How do you hit the target? The science of maximum success. But hopefully you're setting your goals. You have a target for this year. It's your year. You're going to make things happen. A lot of that's going to do with persuasion, motivation, influence, self-persuasion, mindset. That's your mental programming. It's the thing that everybody tends to work on last. Why? Well, it's hard to put a dollar amount to your mindset. Some people have gone out, they failed, they realize it's their mindset. Many people want to go right to starting the business, investing in real estate, growing their website on the internet, all important, and you can put a monetary value to that, but it all comes back to the mindset. So many people say, oh, it didn't work. It didn't work for you. Look at the millions of people that it worked for. You know you could make it work. It comes back to mindset. So let's dive into it and do the persuasion blunder.
Don't!
This is known as the loser's limp or your pre-excuse for failure. So I'm monitoring this salesperson. One of the things that I do, we are going to go to a big negotiation. I'm there to monitor. I'm there to take notes. I'm there to give suggestions. And as we were leaving the corporate office, a fellow negotiator, fellow coworker said, hey, good luck. Close the deal. And he said, well, I hope so. I'm not sure this time if we're going to make it happen. We'll see. They were very resistant last time. Just in a matter of minutes was these 3 or 4 loser's limps or that pre-excuse for failure. So let's go back to loser's limp. Before the big race, the big talk, the big negotiation, we make up excuses before we even get there just in case we fail. And if you make a pre-excuse that it's okay to fail, in your mind it's okay to fail. You see this with people trying out for the Olympics. They get hurt right before the big game. Something happens, they got a limp, their ankle hurts, they can't compete, something might happen. And so not only is it bad food for the mind, you just giving yourself permission that it's okay to fail. So don't plant the seed in your mind. Don't keep thinking about it and water that seed because it's going to grow into a tree of doubt. It's going to mess with your expectations. And bottom line, I've said this before, is that when you feel influential, you are more influential. It's all about that mindset, those expectations. And so you're setting the wrong expectations. That's one of the 12 laws of persuasion and maximum influence. Go to the archives at maximizeyourinfluence.com if you want more information on that. That's also the home for your free persuasion IQ assessment and the advanced training at influenceuniversity.com. So even if you're feeling it, don't think it. If you're feeling it, reprogram your brain to the best case scenario. Get past worry, which is a form of fear, and start visualizing the success. And the other element here is be prepared. The more you're prepared, the fewer excuses you're going to have, and you're not going to get stuck into that loser's limp. Again, that's your pre-excuse for failure. Next up, the geeky Scarly article. This is The Psychology of the Sour Grape, brought to us by Dr. Ross White, Psychology Today, in the Journal of Experimental Social Psychology. The sour grape. Very similar to the loser's limp. So your loser's limp is your pre-excuse for failure. The sour grapes is the post excuse for failure. And here's the problem. When you make excuses, you're pointing fingers, you're blaming, you never take ownership that maybe you blow it, maybe you didn't have the skills, maybe you said the wrong thing, and you never fix yourself. So there's pre-excuse, this is post-excuse. It's called the sour grapes. It comes from the fable, The Fox and the Grapes. Let me briefly tell it to you. So there's this hungry fox going through the vineyard, hoping to find a tasty snack, spotted a bunch of ripe, juicy grapes hanging high on the vine. The fox jumped and jumped but couldn't reach these grapes. Finally, the fox gave up, turned away and said, those grapes are probably sour anyway. I wouldn't even want them. So what's the moral of the story? When we can't get what we want, it's easy to convince ourselves that it wasn't worth having in the first place. That could be your goals, your objective, your target. And it's human tendency to use this defense mechanism to cope with disappointment and frustration and even failure. That's why you hear the term, sour grapes. That's exactly what it means. So interesting, in this study, they talked about these sour grapes. Someone wants to go to a job interview. They're all excited. They're going to it and say, hey, how'd the job interview go? Well, I didn't get it. Oh, wow, I'm sorry to hear that. Well, I didn't really want the job anyway. Something like that could be a post-excuse for failure or sour grapes. So it's interesting. This study was done in Norway and the United States by Dr. Josted. He invited participants to complete tasks and randomly assigned them to two groups. One would receive good feedback, and the other would receive poor feedback on their performance. Participants who were told they had performed poorly on a task predicted that doing well on the same task in the future would increase their happiness to a lesser extent than the participants who were informed that they had performed well in the task. And they found those who don't experience the sour grape effect are the type of people that are highly oriented towards achievement, have goals, and how much they were focused on achievement. Things we'll be talking about today. So when we dismiss the significance of an unachieved goal, it helps us maintain a more positive attitude towards ourselves and our abilities so we can tackle the next goal. Now, if you give up here, blame, point fingers, that's something else. But if you own up, I didn't do well, I can do better, that makes a huge difference. So if you experience sour grapes or know someone that does, here's some things you can do about it. Remember, this is a psychological defense mechanism. The brain wants us to feel good, so it downplays our failures. You can do the reframe, where you reframe the situation. Look at this situation in a more positive light. I failed, but I'm not a failure. That reduces resentment or feeling like a failure. If you didn't get the job, own up. I could have done better. But there's probably better jobs out there that I can find. I'm going to learn from this. I'm going to grow from it. Maybe setting more achievable goals. We're going to talk about that. More realistic, attainable goals, small, manageable, bite-sized pieces. If your goal is to run a marathon in a month, maybe you should start with a 5K. And another one that seems to help people too is to practice gratitude. Focusing on what you have, what you're doing well, your past victories can shift your mindset from being negative to being positive. Now, this could be in your journal, on your phone. Write down 3 things that you're thankful for. When you can practice gratitude, this habit can help you appreciate your current achievements, the resources you have, and you can move on from this current disappointment. And by the way, I've never heard of anyone that did this gratitude journal or list on their phone, the 3 things every day, that had a poor experience. It's an amazing thing to help us switch from being pessimistic to more optimistic. So there you have it. Are you a sour graper? We'll make up that term for today. Do you know people that are? Now you know what it is, why it happens, and what to do about it. Which brings us to our listener email.
Oh boy!
This comes from Sabrina. I have here from Europe. It says, Kurt, I've heard you talk about this before, but what is the key to goal setting and how can I stick to my goals this year? All right. Remember, if we use anything on the podcast, you get free influenceuniversity.com. And by the way, there's a free membership there too to get you started. So if you're wondering what's taken so long to be successful, to be wealthy, to achieve your goals, if you're the type of person that groans when you hear goal setting, this podcast is for you. And I've been guilty too, really, goal setting. But again, every book on success, every motivational speaker, every CEO talks about it because what gets measured gets done. And if it's not getting measured through goals, you're not get anything done. So people try it and they're like, oh, I didn't feel good because they failed. So they never set goals again so they don't fail, but they're a failure because they don't have goals. Did you catch that? Goal setting is one of the most important tools. Even though we cringe and get a little tense, when you do it the right way, it makes a huge difference. In fact, one of my early mentors, Brian Tracy, said goals not only triples your motivation, increases your success, it increases your happiness. You're like, what? Yeah, think about the happiest time in your life you were pursuing a worthwhile, exciting goal. See, a lot of us hate goals because we're assigned goals. Here's your quota. This is what you need to make. And we're assigned goals from managers or other people, and they're not truly ours. But when they're truly your goal and you've bought into it, watch your motivation just go. So again, we can call it objective, target. You know you're supposed to do it, but no one's taught you how to do it. Let's talk about how to do this. For example, if you wanted to learn how to go snow skiing, you went to the resort, you rented your skis, you got your pass, you're like, whoa, it's your first time, you need lessons. Like, I'll figure it out on my own. How hard can it be? You get on the chairlift, get off the Black Diamond, not knowing that's the expert run. You're going to pick up speed, pick up more speed. You're going to hit a tree, break your leg, and say, this is a terrible sport, and I'm never going to do it again. And that's what most people have done with goal setting. People talk about the Harvard and Yale studies. There's some controversy there, but there's also an interesting study I'll bring up here from Dominican University that found out just doing a couple things can double and even triple your chances for success. In fact, Dr. Halverson from Columbia University says, when you do these things, it will triple your success. Here's the key. Written down, not written down. It's just a dream. It has to be written down. There's something magical about that. Having somebody hold you accountable every day. Hey, did you jog? Did you exercise? Did you eat healthy? Did you make 10 phone calls? And have an action plan on how to achieve that. So think about that and think about the production plant study where they hired 2 new shifts of people. In the first shift, they're like, oh, hey, just try your best. Give us your best. All right, they monitored them. The next group say, here are your goals. Here's our expectations. No secret that the group with goals accomplished 3 times more. And I learned about goals from my early mentor, Jim Rohn. Taught me how to do it, the importance of it, the science behind it. And I love what he used to say. So how tall will a tree grow? As tall as it can. How tall should a human grow? As tall as it can, right? But sometimes we get stuck, we get stagnated. Goals will get you out of that. So let me go through my formula, add some of the other formulas that you heard to make sure you're doing this the right way. Make sure the people that you're trying to motivate, that you're trying to lead, are doing it the right way. There's 4 parts here. The first one, most people already do, is the what. All right, what is your goal? You've heard that it needs to be specific and measurable. And I would write it down in the present tense. I weigh 200 pounds. I am a millionaire. Be exact as possible. Make sure it's measurable. And make sure it's believable, that you really believe that you can do it. So we've got the what. It's down. It's specific. It's measurable. It's in the present tense. You know you can do this. You've seen other people do it. So, hey, we're going to make this happen. And then the when. Your brain needs a deadline. It needs a date. Noon, December 31st. 6 p.m. on June 1st. Whatever it is, a deadline, a date, maybe even a time. And I would encourage you to get a countdown app on your phone so you can see how much time you have. But when you have the when, now you can reverse engineer and not get overwhelmed. Because we all know that an overwhelmed brain shuts down. So when you have a when, it's a 6-month goal or year-long goal, you can reverse engineer and say, okay, that's 3 calls a day. That's 2 sales a week. That's $1,000 a week. Whatever it is, we can reverse engineer it. It's in smaller pieces. It's not overwhelming. We have our countdown clock. And now we can break it down to what we need to do every day, every week, every month to achieve our goals. Because if you look at the big, huge annual goal, it's too big. Your brain will explode. Break it down to smaller, manageable, bite-sized pieces. So we have the what, the when. Now we have to do the how. All right, what's your game plan? What was that action plan I talked about earlier? It's not just going to happen. Whether you want to make more money, more sales, lose weight, there has to be an action plan. Who are you going to mentor with? What podcasts are you going to listen to? What books are you going to read? And the other one that's important here is who's going to hold you accountable. Who's your accountability partner that's going to call you, meet you on the corner every morning at 6 a.m. to walk 3 miles? The person you have to send an email to every day. We're flexible here, but you have to have that action plan have somebody hold you accountable and know exactly what you need to do. Now, this part tends to be a little more flexible. For example, most airplanes are off course most of the time. They just correct, and eventually they get there. So with your goals too, you can adjust this. If you're spending an hour a day, maybe you only need to spend 45 minutes a day. You're reading a book a week, maybe you need to read 2 books a week. Maybe 3 calls a day is not cutting it, you need to make 4 calls a day. You can adjust it. That's okay as long as you're shooting towards that target, moving towards that goal. And the important part here too is to keep track of what happens every day. And no, there's no forgiveness. If you only made 2 calls one day, that's 4 calls the next day. If you're supposed to exercise 30 minutes a day and you only did 15, that's 45 minutes the next day. So there's no forgiveness. You keep track of your numbers because you're looking for an upward trend. Just like the stock market, if you look at the stock over 12 months, it's up and down. But overall, most of the year, it's been going up. That's what you want with your goals. You'll have some bad days. But if you can look at your progress, then you can see, hopefully, most of the days are good days. And the most important, the one that most people forget, is what is your why? That's your motivation. Because people don't fail because of a lack of goals. They fail because of a lack of reasons behind those goals. Why do you want to lose weight, make more money, be more successful, change in the world? It could be internal. I'm better than that. I need to be healthier. I need to serve those around me. I want to help my team. What is your why? What is your reason? Because when you're having those bad days, you need a why. You need a reason. Give yourself 2 or 3 here. Maybe a couple internal reasons that inspire you. Maybe some external reasons, external people. This motivation could be either desperation or inspiration, or hopefully both. You want to be healthier so you don't die and have a heart attack. All right, some days that might motivate you. Hopefully most days are inspiration. Some days can be desperation. I'm okay with that. Inspiration to live longer, to send your children to the best schools, to make a difference in the world, whatever it is. In fact, I learned this from a gentleman named Dan Jansen, Olympian speed skater, short oval track. Anyway, he went to his first Olympics, and he held the world record in this event. And he was going to win it all. Everyone's excited. He went to the Olympics and didn't place. Okay. Trained for another 4 years, because his goal was to get that gold medal. Made it to the medal round, slipped and fell, disqualified, no medal. Okay. Trained for another 4 years. Tragedy with his family. His sister got really sick. His brain wasn't in it. Didn't place. Okay. Trained for another 4 years. If you're doing the math, that's 16 years. Everyone say, we know you're the best, you're good, you hold the world record. He's like, no, I want this gold medal. So he made it to the medal round of the short track, and someone else slipped this time. He slipped off, both disqualified, no medal, last chance. He couldn't go back. He was getting too old. His last shot, didn't get the medal. But then he decided to do the longer track. Wasn't his best event, didn't always participate in this. But just squeaked by, barely made it into the medal round. And it was one of those incredible moments in Olympic history when that gun went off. Not only did he win the gold medal, broke the Olympic record, did a victory lap with his newborn daughter, they're throwing flowers. He did it after 16 years. So he sat down with him and said, Dan, how did you do this? 16 years, most people can't get out of bed in the morning. You stuck to a goal for 16 years. He says, when I was younger, I had a wise coach that set me down. Made me list all the reasons why I wanted that gold medal for me, for my family, and financially. He said I practiced 6 hours a day, 6 days a week, and I was cold. I was tired after 3-4 hours. I wanted to go home. And when I felt that way, I'd pull that list out of my speed suit, and I'd find something, a reason to get me back in the game, to stay motivated and to finish the practice. Again, people don't fail because of lack of goals. They fail because of lack of reasons behind those goals. So that's your why. Visualize your why. Remember, the universe won't reward you physically until you see it mentally. Visualize yourself like you've already achieved your goals. As you read your list of reasons, you'll be motivated, you'll be on track, and you will make this year your year. So that's the formula to guaranteed goals. That's the science of maximum success. That's the way to hit that objective, that target. Do it, make it happen, increase your commitment, increase your motivation, increase your happiness, all through the science, all through these guaranteed goals. Now, if you want more information on this, we'll make it the special of the week. It's called Millionaire Psychology. I'll give you over 50% off. I'll put the link in the email under podcast 544, or go to the website at Maximize Your Influence, click on 544, and you'll find the link. Remember to tell your family, friends, and enemies about the podcast. We can be found at Spotify, iTunes, iHeart, and YouTube. So, put these things in writing, follow the formula, become more successful, make sure this is your year, become a better influencer, and go out and persuade with power.